And here we are once again. Good evening, folks. Mobile Giza here with Friday Night Tech Talk. And we do this every Friday night, going over some of the tech stories from the last week. If you're new here, welcome. Simulcast on Facebook on my Mobile Geezer ID and also on my George Hayes ID. So over on Facebook, you can go to either one, but all three, the two Facebooks and YouTube, simulcast at the same time. So welcome. And if you're new here, please leave a comment in the comments or say something in the comments so I'll know you're here and let me know where you're from. So Brian is in here. He's the first one in. And he's been here since like an hour ago. So good for you, Brian. Nobody else has shown up yet. Oh, here's Matt. He just said he's here. Thank you, Matt. Very glad you're here. So that covers New York. And I'm in Chattanooga. I believe Matt is in Nashville. So I'll let you know who else comes in. Every week I put the stories on my webpage and we go over some of the stories that I've picked out. So I will show you my webpage. Let me share screen here. And let me get my branding stuff out of the way for a moment. Okay. So if you go to merblegeezer.wordpress.com, click on today's date, you'll get just the stories for tonight. See if I can make this a little bit bigger. There you go. Okay. And while we're here, as I do every week, I'll give you a quick preview of the stories we're going to go over. I'm seeing it's okay. I just saw Elna popped in. Hey, Elna, glad you're here. So that's 3 of our regulars already, which is great. No big earth-shaking tech stories this week. So I just picked out stories that I thought were interesting. And I usually start with not so big story, giving people time to get in, and I try to work my way up to the bigger story. But like I said, there's no big story tonight. So I've just found some interesting stuff. There's a new French camera chip startup company that signed what I said it was a big deal with Qualcomm. And that's on a site that I had never heard of before called moomoo.com. So we'll go over that story. And none of the stories are very, very long tonight, so it's probably going to be quick, especially if Ted and or Will don't show up. So we'll see what happens. Next up, there's a YouTuber who did some physical folding wars between the Galaxy Z Flip 5 and the Flip 5 seriously outlast the Razr Plus. The story was on The Verge, and we'll get the YouTuber's name when we go inside. And there's his name in the story, Mr. Keyboard, basically. So we'll go over that. And then Snapchat in the UK, they may be investigated. And if they are liable to pay $184 million fine. So we'll find out what that's about on Phone Arena. And then last week we talked about CMF, the sub company, by Nothing. And so I said at least one tech writer is disappointed by Nothing's new sub brand. That's on Tech Radar, so we'll check that out. And also last week or the week before, a little bit about the action button coming to the iPhone 15 Pro. But there's a story on Tom Sky that has just a little bit more about it, so we'll go over that. Seems like the action button is kind of a big deal for the iPhone 15. And lastly, all RCS conversations are going to be are end-to-end encrypted, I gather, as of right now. So that is a very good story. If Will were here, I know he'd be happy about that. He'll still say iMessage is a lot better, but they're going in the right direction. Matter of fact, in the story, it doesn't mention how much longer iMessage has been end-to-end encrypted. So let me stop screen for a moment. Patricia's here, Mike's wife. Glad to have you here, Patricia. I'm sure Mike is out making money. She says hi to Eleanor. And Steve's here, all the way from England, but you're up late. It's tomorrow morning over there, so that's great. Glad to have you, Steve. Matt says they weren't exactly fair to the Razr in that story. Well, we'll find out in it, so we'll see. So, all right, if Ted or Will come in, I will certainly let you guys know. Oh. Okay, Steve says hi. Oh, so Patricia is out with Mike making money. They're out door dashing together. I know Mike likes to have Pat with him when he goes out, so that's a good night already. And I said to Steve, in England, it's early in the morning. It's 1:06 a.m., Steve. I do very, very much appreciate it. So they're 5 hours ahead of us. So anytime anybody pops in from over there, from across the pond, that's real dedication. I appreciate it very much. And Steve has been a subscriber for quite a long time. Thank you, Steve. So I'm going to start with the stories. I'll let you know if either one of the guys come in. And Patricia, glad you're here. And say hi to Mike sitting right next to you in the car. Okay. Going to share screen. Go back to the stories. Okay, let me put my brand stuff back up for a second. Okay, just wanted you to know Super Chat is always wide open for you guys. My comments back. Okay, so first story. New French camera chip startup company signs big deal with Qualcomm. And the gentleman's name, the CEO and co-founder, Luca Verde. I guess that's how you pronounce it. So let's go check it out. Like I said, none of the stories are very long, really. And this story is from this guy. It looks like the story might be all the way back from February, but I just saw it this week for the first time. So I thought it was a cool story that they got to deal with Qualcomm, so I wanted to show it. So let's put it in read view, see if we can get rid of some of these ads. Paris-based startup Prophecy, I love that name, a maker of camera chips inspired by the way the human eye works, said on Monday it has signed a multi-year deal with Qualcomm Incorporated to be used with the smartphone technology giant's product. While today's camera chips continuously process the full frame of images, Prophecy's chip will only process changes in the scene, such as light or movement, which makes it faster and requires less computing power. Pretty smart, said Luca Verde, co-founder and chief executive at Prophecy. Verde said that it's similar to the way the human eye focuses on certain objects rather than taking in all details in the background. The technology works with pixels on the sensor that only send information to the processor when there's a change. That's pretty slick. Pardon me. While pixels that perceive no change stay muted. There are 1 million pixels on Prophecy's latest chips. Manufacturing of the chip will be outsourced to Sony Group, so there's some more business for Sony. So we are really combining both key players in this space, said Verde. referring to both Qualcomm and Sony without disclosing financial terms of the deal. So I just thought it's cool that a startup gets the deal with the heavy hitters. So I wanted to start out with that. It's always nice to start out with something that's good for the smaller guy. So let's see, nothing new in the comments. Okay. So down to our next story, and like as usual, if neither one of the guys come in, there's going to be a very quick evening. So, physical folding wars. Galaxy Z Flip seriously outlasts the Razr Plus, and I have my my Razr Plus right here. You guys know I love it, and I've been saying for a long time this is the prettiest phone I've ever had, but I love my Razr Plus, and I had to make a choice money-wise whether I was going to get the Motorola Razr Plus or the Z Flip 5. I chose the Plus. I'm glad I did. I still love it. So let's go into the story on The Verge. So let's see. This is from 2 days ago. Okay. YouTuber subjects the Galaxy Z Flip 5 to a week of continuous folding to see when it breaks. And it's pretty real world stuff, the way he's doing it. It's not like a machine, and they mention that. After days of continuous folding and unfolding, Samsung's latest flip phone has eventually given out after 400,000 folds. It survived over double the amount of folding cycles as the Motorola Razr Plus. So I wanted to give them their props for that. So let's go into read review, get rid of some of these ads. If you're wondering how many times Samsung's latest foldable flip phone, the Galaxy Z Flip 5, might survive when subjected to the stresses and strains of the real world, YouTuber Mr. Keyboard has an answer for you. 401,146, that's the folds. Between August 2nd and today, and this was 2 days ago, his channel has run a live stream, so this has been live the whole time, of the phone being continuously folded and unfolded by a series of testers. Yeah, I'm sure they some of them had to get some sleep at some point. Initially, Samsung's foldable was being compared to Motorola's recently released Razr Plus, known as the Razr 40 Ultra outside of the US. But the screen on Motorola's foldable died after just 126,266 cycles. So big difference. Give him props for that. Mr. Keyboard's test is hardly as scientific as the kinds of robotic automated folding and unfolding Samsung has shown off in its promotional materials for the Flip and Fold 5, but that's kind of the point, and I agree 100%. The experiment subjected the phones to a large amount of variation in the speed and force with which they were folded and unfolded, which arguably reflects the kinds of stresses actual people, rather than machines, will put the phone under. That makes sense. This live stream isn't sponsored nor influenced by Samsung and Motorola. The live stream's video description reads, Samsung's foldable didn't fail all at once. After around 223,000 folds, the phone developed a fault with its hinge. And prior to Mr. Keyboard officially calling an end to the test, the phone could be seen springing open of its own volition. So it did have problems after that, but it still lasted. But the Flip 5 appeared to be broadly usable until the 400,000 mark, when it was submerged in water and covered in flour and eggs. Its hinge appeared to grow increasingly unusable after that point, you think? Until the YouTuber called an end to the experiment when a pink line was visible running down the right-hand side of the screen. Other tests included heating the phone while it was opened and closed, opening and folding it underwater, and putting it in a bag of dust. Now, if I take this out of reader view, I think we see the picture. Yeah. Yeah, there's after the 400,000 mark, the phone was subjected to a pretty intense water and dust test and died soon after. So I'm going to keep it up here so you guys can see it because I think they're going to mention this more. Yes, I too would love to know how much longer the phone might have survived if it hadn't been suggested to this year. Given Samsung's flip phone has an IP rating of IPX8, which means it's protected against being submerged in water, but isn't protected against dust for now, it seems like the flour played a part in the phone breaking. But being able to survive 400,000 folds would still mean the phone should survive over 10 years of use if you unfold and fold it around 100 times a day. And that's a very realistic test, I think. 10 years is good enough, I'd say. Motorola's new Razr performed far less well. 126,266 phones still theoretically translate to a little under 3.5 years of use if you open and close the phone 100 times a day. Yeah, 3.5 years is enough for me, so I'm good. But it suggests the phone isn't as durable as Samsung's competing device. And that makes sense. Samsung's on their 5th generation of this stuff, so they should be ahead. In a similar test, Mr. Keyboard folded and unfolded the Galaxy Z Flip 3 418,500 times before calling the experiment to come to an end. But looking back at the footage of the test, it looks like the Z Flip 3 was failing to stay closed by itself far earlier than the official end of the test, which also included submerging it in water and covering it in dust and sand. So there's a certain amount of interpretation involved when deciding how many folds a foldable can survive. So anyway, I just thought it was an interesting test. And let's see what Matt is saying over here. Matt, okay, early in the test, I think on the end day, so obviously Matt watched some of this video. On the end day, one of the things they did was put the phones in bags of sand and shook them. Yeah, Jury Rig Everything does that kind of stuff. The Razr screen did not die. It got a small dot on the screen. It soon developed a white line. The phone still functioned. What happened to my... Okay, the phone still functioned, but it actually did still work. Good to know, Matt. Thanks. They called it a death, but it was not. It cheated Moto. So, okay, I'm glad Matt is giving us this extra stuff because he was actually watching. So I guess the Moto did a little bit better than Mr. Keyboard says it did. So that's good to know. So either way, 3.5 years, 10 years, I'm good with either one. So I just thought that was a very interesting story. Been very glad we had Matt to give us a little bit extra and a little bit more of the truth, I would say. So let's come out of that. Okay. And nothing else in the comments. Matt, very grateful that you gave us that. So I guess you guys can go to Mr. Keyboard and see some of this test for yourself. So let's go down to the next story. The guys have come in. Snapchat UK investigation may cost Snap Incorporated $184 million. This is on Phone Arena. Now, this hasn't happened yet, so we'll see. I guess the investigation may or may not happen. So Snapchat facing a possible $184 million fine if found guilty over underage users. And this was from 3 days ago. So let's go to reader view. See how long it takes. Sometimes it takes a second before it pops into reader view. Oh, and Matt says on the last story, he was in the second and not at the end. Okay, but at least you let us know the razor did last longer than they're kind of saying it did. Okay. Social media platforms don't have it too easy these days, and Snapchat is no exception to that. Snapchat owner Snap Incorporated could face a formal investigation, so they haven't faced it yet, and if found guilty, be fined some $184 million. All of this over mismanaging and not enforcing strict enough policies to remove underage users from its platform via routers. Ofcom is the UK's communications regulator. Last year, it found out that in the UK, the most popular app for underage social media users was none other than Snapchat. According to their data, more than half, approximately 60%, of kids that are aged between 8 and 11 had at least one social media account, often created by supplying a false date of birth. So this is the crux of the problem. UK's data protection law states that social media companies need consent from the parents if indeed to process data of kids under 13, or if it's going to, I guess it should say if it's going to process data of kids under 13. So far, Snapchat has not issued an official statement on the matter of reducing the number of underage users. A Snap person says the company does strive towards ensuring that digital platforms are age appropriate and support the duties set out in the children's code. I guess that's the children's code in the UK. Before starting an official investigation, ICO, Information Commissioner's Office, has to gather information and may still ask the company to aid in the investigation. So this official investigation hasn't started yet. I'm sure Snapchat is going to try to avoid it, so I would think they'd be helping as much as they could. A report from Reuters in March claimed that Snapchat had only removed a few dozen under 13 accounts from its platform in Britain last year. That doesn't sound like very many. Ofcom estimates Snapchat has thousands of underage users. Yeah, but how do you prove it? Maybe there's a way, I don't know. If an investigation launches and if found guilty, Snap Incorporated could be fined an equivalent to up to 4% of its annual global turnover, which Reuters estimates at $184 million, based on recent Snap Incorporated financial results. So all of this is still speculative. On a side note, the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Young Children said that figures it had obtained showed that Snapchat accounted for 43% of cases in which social media was used to distribute indecent images of children. So I can see why they're going to be worried about it. So we don't know if Snapchat's going to end up getting investigated or if they're going to pay the fine, but I just thought it was interesting that the UK is looking into it. Okay, nothing new in the comments and nobody else in yet. So we're going to get out here good and early tonight, I think. So, if we go a half an hour, we're good. I always try to bring you guys 5 or 6 stories that I think are at least interesting and may interest you as much as they interest me. Okay, so last week we talked about a sub-company of Nothing, CMF. So I found a story for this week. At least one tech writer is disappointed by Nothing's new sub-brand. And this was on Tech Radar. And she kind of is not happy with Carl Pei, but you'll see that. So, sorry, but Nothing's cheap CMF earbuds are everything Carl Pei said he wouldn't do. So these earbuds aren't even a reality yet, but from what he's saying, she's basing this on what he said in the past, 2 different things she's saying. Color, materials, form, so CMF. Aren't these the antithesis of Nothing? So I'm not entirely sure I'm getting everything that this lady is, and this is by Bessie Scarratt. I'm not entirely sure I'm getting everything that she presents here, but I want to let you guys see the story. And in this video, which I'm not going to play, Carl Pei does kind of say exactly what she's saying. So you've likely heard the news. Nothing, the 2021 tech startup from former OnePlus CEO Carl Pei, and most recently creator of the Nothing Ear 2 earbuds and Nothing Phone 2, which I have right here. Okay, here's a Nothing Phone 2, and I'm absolutely loving this phone. And I think it's well worth the $600. So just wanted you guys to know that. I'll be putting out a bit of an update kind of review-like thing in a few days, I think. So, all right, has announced a new sub-brand, CMF by Nothing, and I told you that story last week. In Nothing's community update, and that's this, for the second quarter of 2023, link below, skip to 847 if you're unconcerned about Pei's fear of roller coasters. I'm with him on that. And just want his segment. Pei asks, you know how Nothing's vision is about making tech fun again, and she's going to jump all over this. And yes, I have the same fear of roller coasters. I have an extreme fear of roller coasters. And Elna would make fun of me and has made fun of me because she says you'll jump out of an airplane, but you won't get on a roller coaster. And that is true. I've jumped out of airplanes twice and no problem. I get a kick out of it. But roller coasters terrify me. So just so you know. Okay. So she said, you know how Nothing's vision about making tech fun again? That's what Carl Pei said. She says, well, yes, I do. I think it should say, it's just I didn't think that by fun you meant cheaper earbuds. And this is her problem here. I'm not sure that knowing you can't afford the best a brand can offer, and perhaps that you should consider yourself lucky its kind CEO is offering something lowlier is fun. So she's really upset about this. But that's not my main issue. So we haven't even gotten to the main thing yet. See, for me, fun was covering the May 2021 announcement for our sister public, that's technically our sister publication, What Hi-Fi, about an intriguing and highly mysterious new Nothing outfit. This is when they first came out, which was about to launch something big in the world of earbuds, which said that was their first product. And it was all to be headed by a genius, a gutsy man who simply upped and walked away from OnePlus after 7 years, which he did. What made it also exciting? The tantalizing bits of information drip-fed and boy did Carl drip feed that first year on Nothing's website at the time. Though these nuggets of what I now have to conclude was just slick marketing, and it was. And that was my problem with the first iteration of the phone. Nothing said its raison d'etre was a journey towards nothing. That means reason for existing. Our mission is to remove barriers between people and technology to create a seamless digital future that looks, lives, and feels like nothing. So this was their statement on day one. Hurrah. So actual nothingness, AKA the first consumer headphones not to adopt a tangible physical form. Yes. So she's looking for them to live up to the word nothing. And even though Nothing explained its initial effort would fall short for those hoping for a disappearing act overnight, Ear One falls short. The greatest visions are not realized with the flip of a switch, but instead through countless small successes. And I believe that's true. Ear One is just the start. So that was the very first product. The company certainly didn't lead me to believe that my initial assumption was wrong, did it? So she's still looking for some more tangible, quote, nothing. And there was more. Everything that is Ear One is there with a purpose. Everything you see and everything you don't see. Even the name, mirroring the product's stripped down aesthetic, the name Ear One echoes our raw ambition to let things be what they are. So that's kind of nothing's whole point, to let things be what they are. Yet here we are in August 2023 with 2 Android phones, 3 sets of earbuds, one in the novel stick-like case that was paraded down the catwalk at London Fashion Week. And I can show you that because I have that right here. And that's the ear stick. And I just put my video up unboxing them yesterday, so you can go see that. And they're okay, no ANC, so keep that in mind. And they're nowhere near as good as the Samsung Buds 2 that I'm wearing right now. Okay. 2 Android phones, just to be one officer was placed on the catwalk in London Fashion Week. 2 that make significant use of transparent plastics, a design-conscious partnership with Teenage Engineering. See this cute cut-your-own vinyl record player for reference. I don't know about that. Let's click on that. Okay, so I guess this company makes those. Okay, got it. Okay. Okay. And now a more affordable offshoot brand. It's hardly shaking up the tech industry, is it? She's very upset. I'm not mad, she says. I just expected more from nothing. I could go to a whole thing about how you could probably expect less from nothing, but I don't want to go there again. Everybody in the world has done those jokes, including me. Okay, these ladybugs are very much in love. This was the original ad that they were doing when the Ear Ones first came out. Okay, I'm sorry, but I want more from my visionary CEOs who basically promised me they do away with the physical format. So she's looking for them to do away with the physical format. I need something other than fun, affordable earbuds in response to user feedback. Yes, I accept that the move likely comes as a result of customer dismay regarding Nothing's inconsistent pricing strategy. Yeah, it's kind of true. But still, and that's because of the earbuds. That's because the initial Ear One buds, which these are cheaper than, get that back. Okay, these are cheaper than those, and they say so. But the initial Ear One buds were $99 until these came out. Keep in mind, these are cheaper than the Ear One buds and more cheaply made, and they're meant to be. But these came out at $99. So what did they do? They jacked the Ear Ones up to $149, which they still are. So I managed to get these on Amazon for $64, which you still can. Right now, they've even reduced the price on Nothing's US website to $79, but go to Amazon if you want to get these. They're nice, but remember, no active noise cancellation. So that's the big thing. And bass is not great on those. So just wanted you guys to know. So let's go back. Yes, I accept the move of customer. Okay. But still, I cannot applaud it. Remember when Corpay took to Twitter last October to announce that the Nothing Ear One would be getting a price hike to $149 due to an increase in corks? That wasn't it. While the Nothing Ear Stick slotted into its place at $99. And that's what they did. They took these from $99 to $149 and then brought in the new ones at $99. That's why I'm glad you can get them for $64 right now. And they're okay. They're pretty good. I'd say they're definitely worth $64, that's for sure, or even the $79 that they're charging. It all feels like a strong pivot away from the quest for nothing. How clearly I remember that the early Air One marketing were tiny ladybugs atop the product, which we just saw, as if to reassure us that shrinking things right down to near nothing was the only course of action worth pursuing. Yeah, she's looking for this near nothing stuff. And yet, CMF is a known abbreviation in the industrial design space, typically referring to color, materials, finish. These, of course, are all essential components of a physical, tangible object. As such, CMF by nothing is the very antithesis of nothing. So that's her problem. And for me, that is kind of disappointing. So she's saying color, materials, finish is the opposite of what nothing should be standing for. As I've said it before and I'll say it again, give me the wild, outlandish, cutting edge ideas in portable audio. Give me the mind-blowing headphones, the actually very cool Eargasm cans, the first ever Wi-Fi lossless headphones from a brand you've never heard of. Give me and the consumer anything other than design conscious but cheap. So she's saying you're going to make it cheaper and you're going to give me the opposite of what you said you were going to give me. That's her problem with this. I'm not saying I have no love in my heart for the best budget wireless earbuds. I'm saying I had greater expectations when it came to a company fronted by Carl Pei. I had hoped that aesthetics, colors, and materials would not dominate Nothing's future, but rather the whittling down of them would. So again, she's saying go towards nothing if that's what you're going to call yourself. I really believe nothing would remove barriers between people and technology, with their words, to create a seamless digital future that looks, lives, and feels like nothing. And that's what they said. I wanted more. I wanted nothing. So she is very upset about this, thinks they're going against what they said they were going to do with this new sub company. So I just thought it was a very, very well written article, and I was amazed at how upset she was. Let's see. Oh, Steve is saying, how are the Nothing earbud stick version doing? Now, with the app updated for ANC. Okay, I didn't know the app was updated for ANC. So I have the app, but I tried them tonight before I put these in. I tried them tonight before I put these in. Of course, these are my favorite. This is the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pros. And this is the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2, not the Pros. The Pros are what I use on my bicycle, but this is the one before that. And both of those are my two favorites. The Nothings are nowhere near as good sounding as that because I tried it with Nothing again tonight. Maybe I'm too used to these, but it didn't sound quite loud enough for me, and I had it turned all the way up on the computer. So I switched to my normal Samsung Buds, but I got to check on the app being updated for ANC. Thanks for letting me know about that, Steve. Matt said, I watched a video on the Nothing stick. Here's my kind of humor. Give me nothing or give me dead. I love it. Good one, Matt. Now he's changed it to give me nothing or give me death. Yeah, I'll take nothing. Steve says, I know the app that's updated for the stick version to improve the sound quality. Okay. Yeah, I still don't think it has ANC, but I will check with that, guys, and I will certainly give you some kind of update by next week, probably next Friday. So I will let you know what I find out, if I found out, and find anything more. And like I said, they're okay. They're just not as good as what I'm used to with the Samsung Buds. So I probably should start comparing. And because there's no, silicone in your ear, they don't stick as well. They stick something like the AirPods. And I'm afraid to take them out on the bicycle because I'm pretty sure they're going to drop right out of my ear. So, okay. So I just wanted to let you guys know this lady was very upset by the whole idea of the sub brand. Okay, none of the guys have come in yet, so just wanted to let you know. Go back over here. And we're going down to last week we had talked about the action button on the new i15 Pro, and there's a little bit more about it on Tom's Guide. So, iPhone 15 Pro action button. What to know about the biggest design change in years. So they're thinking this is a big deal, and I've seen others saying the same thing. The mute switch is reportedly going away with the iPhone 15 Pro, which I told you guys. And here's what's replacing it. So there's just a little more depth to this story, so I just thought it would be worth looking into. Going to read a view. Shortly after the iPhone 14 was released, it was rumored that Apple would be ditching its physical buttons entirely for the next generation of iPhones. That was rumored a lot. Since then, that plan has been softened to just the mute switch purportedly being taken out and replaced by a flexible, programmable haptic action button. Yeah, and Ted made sure I was aware of exactly what that was last week because I had it I didn't have a clear idea of what they meant. What does that mean for you in the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max? Here's everything we know about the action button so far. What is it? Most current iPhones have 4 buttons, a side button, 2 volume buttons, and a ring silent switch. I guess I should, since I have it right here. Okay. Side button, 2 volume buttons right here, and the switch right here. Just thought I should show that since I had it sitting right next to me. Okay. Apple reportedly intends to replace the last of these, the mute button, with a single button, which the user can program to their own liking. In addition to giving more flexibility to iPhone 15 Pro owners, and that's the big thing, replacing the switch with a button has advantages for Apple in terms of reliability. Didn't think of that, but this is true. The gap present for a physical switch not only makes water ingress more likely, but fluff and dust can build up too. If the action button is a haptic capacitive button, then there are no moving parts to break either. It makes sense. What could it do? Thanks to a recent iOS beta code dive, we have a pretty good idea of the kinds of functionality that users will be able to bind to the action button, and that was in my original story. In the recent iOS 17 Beta 4, Mac Rumors Steve Moser found a list of shortcut keywords, and we talked about those. But again, there were accessibility shortcuts, silent mode, camera, flashlight, focus, magnifier, translate, and voice memos. While this might not be an exhaustive list, it gives you a general idea about what Apple could be thinking in terms of handy shortcuts, including silent mode, so that those who miss the mute switch won't be completely out in the cold. Shortcuts, and this is, to me, that's the exciting part, is especially important as the app lets users apply complex strings of actions which can presumably be triggered by a single press of the action button. So that would be good, I think. What's happening to the volume buttons? I hadn't thought of that. I think nothing really. Early rumors suggested that as well as eliminating the mute switch, Apple would be replacing the volume buttons with a haptic rocker to reduce moving parts and make the phone less susceptible to water ingress. An apparent official Apple leather case for the new device posted to Twitter X by Liquor Majambu seems to back up the elimination of the mute switch. Is that the case? No, there's the case. Okay, so there's a button and a switch. Okay, that makes sense. Apple would be replacing the volume button. Okay. With the mute switch. Most iPhone cases tend to have a cutout in their sides to accommodate that current mute switch, which exactly this case has a cutout right here for the mute switch. I don't know if you can see that. The cutout's right there. So it's right about that. But this particular case instead uses a small button similar to the existing power and volume piece, but shorter. So again, you can see it right here. However, the suggestion of a volume haptic rocker may not prove to be correct. That plan appears to have been abandoned for unspecified reasons. Initially, it was suggested that it was merely postponed to the iPhone 16 Pro, but now that's in doubt too. Action button outlook. As an iPhone 14 Pro user, I actually have two minds, and that's what I'm showing you the Pro Max here, about this potential upgrade. On one hand, the programmable button is clearly a lot more flexible than a single function switch, which is objectively a good thing. I think so. But on the other, I really like the mute switch. So do I, but I think that's better. As a regular theater goer, I like the fact that he probably lives in New York. I like the fact that I can instantly mute my phone via switch if I forgot to put it on airplane mode. And while muting is one of the functions here, with the switch, you know it's been actioned even if you're doing it in your pocket. That's true, because you can feel if it's in the right position. That's true. But I'm probably in the minority, and most people will likely welcome the added functionality. I will, I think, assuming I get the phone at some point. We'll find out when the iPhone 15 Pro is revealed, probably as soon as next month at the Apple September event. So just thought having a little more info about it was probably a good idea. So let's get rid of that. Let's see. Steve says, I love the way that Apple makes slight changes, which Android phones have had for years. That's true. And call them a major redesign. Yes, but they can, because they're Apple people, or Apple sheep, if you want to call it, will believe what Apple says. So that allows them to do that and call them a major redesign, then sell their product at extortionate prices. No thanks. Yeah, I always try to keep at least one iPhone, but of course, you guys all know all the rest of my phones are all Androids. Matt, I changed tracks on the Razr using the volume, but yes, I've seen that. I haven't done that yet, but I know you can. Matt, when I was fixing phones, the mute switch often really. Well, it seems to me now the first iPhone I ever had was the 6 Plus, and I've had mostly an iPhone ever since. Well, I did go year and a half or 2 years without, and then I came back. Yeah, I came back when the 10 came out, and I've had an iPhone ever since. And it does seem to me that back then it did seem to be a little more delicate. I have to. The switch seems much more durable now, I think. Certainly on my iPhone 14 Pro Max. Steve said, brainwashing Apple sheep. Yeah, a lot of people say that. I'm glad Will's not here. He'd be picking a fight right now. Okay. Well, actually, I'm never glad Will's not here. I'm always glad when he is here, and Ted too, for that matter. All right, I'm going to go to the last story. So back to sharing screen, and we are getting almost an hour out of tonight. I don't think it's because I'm stretching anything. Okay, last story. All RCS conversations end-to-end encrypted, which I think is awesome, and I'm sure Will would think it's awesome too. And this was on ZDNet. So, and this was from 2 days ago. Google Messages just got a major security upgrade. Now, keep in mind, this is going to be between Android phones because you're not going to have Google Messages on an iPhone. End-to-end encryption is now enabled by default on your Google Messages conversations between Android devices. Here's what it means for you. And that's by Sabrina Ortiz. And this is from 2 days ago. So let's go into Read-A-View. Get rid of some of these ads. See how long it takes to pop into Read-A-View. There we go. Okay, Android and iPhone users have had the blue bubble versus green bubble iMessage versus RCS feud for years, that's for sure. Now, one of the biggest iMessage advantages is coming to Google Messages. On Tuesday, Google announced that all RCS conversations on Google Messages will be end-to-end encrypted by default. I think that's great, including group messages. And I gather that's the part that was missing in their testing. Google had initially introduced end-to-end encryption for one-on-one conversations in 2020, but they didn't have group. And since then, they had only tested this type of encryption for group messages. So now, we've got it all the way. Now all Google Messages will have an extra layer of privacy because end-to-end encryption prevents third parties from accessing your messages, ensuring that the only person who views your message is the intended recipient. I don't know who invented end-to-end encryption, but I remember my first time I used it when I was still programming was 2004 when I started doing server-side stuff, and I just think it's true. Once you put that encryption in, nobody can unlock it unless they have the key. And if you haven't given them the key, they can't see it. Nobody. That's why the FBI has to ask these phone companies for the encryption keys. So I think it's awesome. RCS will now be activated by default for all users, both new and existing. This is a significant development because it ensures everyone can automatically benefit from the additional security unless they have previously disabled RCS messages. So as long as you haven't disabled it, you've got end-to-end encryption. Either way, users can turn RCS on or off in their settings anytime. iMessage has had end-to-end encryption since 2011. So Google's a little late to the party, like 12 years, which gave it a significant competitive advantage for over a decade. Google's encryption adoption bridges that gap, thank God. However, other RCS to iMessage issues will persist, such as the loathed green bubbles and the reduced quality of pictures when sending from RCS to iMessage. Yeah, that's the only real bummer to me. Google has been campaigning for Apple to adopt RCS, which will virtually solve all issues. But Apple hasn't budged, likely because the blue messages are a significant way to keep people within the Apple ecosystem. Very smart of Apple, if you ask me. So anyway, I think that's very good that we have end-to-end encryption on RCS. So I thought I'd end. I started with a good story about the little guy, and I ended with a good story about better encryption and better security for all of us. So I think I've bookmarked the show with 2 good stories. So that's a very good thing, I think. And that's the end of our stories tonight, folks. And I'm kind of excited tonight because it's nice having, I've got Brian and Eleanor every week, which I certainly appreciate. It was nice having Patricia in here, kind of watches while she's riding around with Mike. Steve, I'm glad you came in from England. So very, very happy about that. And Matt has become a real regular again. Thank you, Matt, very much. Work. Oh, here's Alan from Phone Tech at Work. Okay, glad you popped in, Alan. Let me see. Say you're more than welcome to join us after you. Oh, thank you very much, Alan. And Matt, what's Matt say? Nothing in the way it works affects me. Oh, I guess I have to go back. I used to sing that song. Nothing in the way it works attracts me like no other phone. Let's see. So he had asked, I had missed that before. So he had asked me about the earbuds, and I had totally missed that Alan was in here. Okay, so that's it. Alan, sorry I didn't acknowledge you earlier, but I'm glad I saw that you were in there, and I appreciate you jumping in like you do very, very much. And appreciate all you guys for sticking with the stream, for coming into the stream. Appreciate all the comments, especially from Steve and Matt, for the information that they've passed on. Let's see, Matt says, we need a notification LED on the Razr. Any app that does that? I haven't tried any specific apps for the Razr. I am liking my Razr so very, very much. I haven't even needed anything else. And of course, I'm like most people when this came out, that front screen is so good. I rarely ever have to open it, which is true. And I guess that's now true for the Z Flip 5 also. Guess I'll try to see if I can find any app that, it does have an notification LED. Be interesting. Matt says he is loving his Razr also. Yeah, that just awesome phone, I think, and worth. If you're going to pay $1,000, it's worth $1,000. If you're going to pay that for the Samsung, because I think they're about equal, I guess. And the Nothing Phone 2 this week got what they're saying is a big camera update. So I'm probably going to take the camera out again. Not for do a comparison with anything else, just to see if we see any quality differences. I'll try to get it out at night some too, just to let you guys see what that looks like. But I'm fairly impressed with the cameras on this $600 phone, because I think for a $600 phone, the cameras are pretty good. So just my opinion. And I've seen other people have the same opinion. There's very wide opinions on the Nothing Phone 2, both good and bad. A lot of people saying good things and a number of people saying not so good things. So very wide divergence of opinion. So that's it, guys. Let's see. Steve says, looking forward to your next videos on the Nothing 2. Y'all get something out over the weekend. Matt said, I did a 2-year contract at T-Mobile for a free rest. Okay, that's cool. Very good. I probably should do that too. I just don't like being locked into anything. But very smart way to do things. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Sorry neither one of the other guys came in, but I'm glad you guys stuck with us. I'm glad you guys give me the information that you do. So I have very knowledgeable subscribers, and I appreciate you guys very, very much. So as always, let's always remember we all do better when we love each other, and I hope everybody has a very blessed and happy weekend, and I will see you next week.